First of all, let's do a quick recap of trigonometry. Trigonometry is used to find missing lengths and missing angles in right-angled triangles. So you have to have a 90-degree angle. Now, first of all, we need to look at how to label the sides. The way that you label the sides, it depends on which angle you are given or that you are looking for. So let's say we've given this angle. Now, the longest side, which is the one on the other side from the right angle, is always called the hypotenuse, so we label it H. The one on the other side from the angle is called the opposite, and the side which is next to the angle from the right angle is called the adjacent. Now in trigonometry we have the formulas. Now the easiest way to remember them is SOHCAHTOA. So what it means is sine of an angle is opposite over hypotenuse, cos of an angle is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan of an angle is opposite over adjacent. So SOHCAHTOA is a good way of remembering what those formulas are. So on your calculator you have the sine, cos, tan buttons, so let's have a look at what it means. So for example, if I do tan of 40, let's say. Now my calculator gives me this. Now what this means is basically tan is opposite divided by adjacent. It's a ratio. And what's going to happen is tan of 40 is going to be this number, 0.839. Let's just round it off. So what it means is that the opposite divided by the adjacent length of any triangle with 40 degrees in it will be 0.839. So another way to think about it is opposite divided by adjacent. This number is like 83.9%. So basically the opposite is going to be 83.9% of the adjacent, and then you know it's a 40-degree angle. Okay, so let's have a look at some questions about how we solve them. So let's start with this one. So we're looking for this line, this length. So first thing we do is label the sides. Here's the angle. So this side is the opposite. Now this side is the adjacent, but we don't need it and we're not given it, so we can ignore that. And this side is obviously the hypotenuse. So looking at SOHCAHTOA, you can see we need the formula with the O and the H in it, so it's sine. So we know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So what we do is write sine 68, opposite is x, and the hypotenuse is 19, so we have this. Now to solve this we can take the 19 to the other side. And then, of course, we can just use our calculator to work that out. So we just do 19 sine 68. Make sure your calculator is set for degrees. So we should end up with 17.6 for x. Okay, the next one. Again, we've got the angle here. So this is the opposite, but we don't need the opposite and we're not given it. This side is obviously the adjacent, and this side is the hypotenuse. So this time we've got A and H, so actually we need to use the cosine this time, cos. So cos is adjacent over hypotenuse. Put the information into the formula, so cos 27, adjacent is x, hypotenuse is 10. So we end up with, take the 10 to the other side and multiply. 10 times the cos of 27 is x, and then we just put that into the calculator. So 8.91. Okay. So in this question again, here's the angle. The x, hopefully you realise now that's the opposite and this is the adjacent. So if you look at what formula we need this one because it has the O and the A in it. And then again, we just use the calculator. So 6.63. Okay, let's just do these two because it's slightly different. So this time, here's my angle. Notice that the x this time is on the other side from the right angle, so it's the longest side, so this is the hypotenuse. And this one is the one that's next to the angle, between the angle and the right angle, so that's the adjacent. So from SOHCAHTOA, we know that it's going to be cosine, isn't it? So it's a cosine question. So let's put all the information in. So cos of the angle, so 39. Now be careful this time because we know it's adjacent divided by hypotenuse. So it's 12.96 divided by x. So this time you notice that the x is on the bottom. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to swap these two sides over. So x is 12.96 divided by cos 39. So slightly different this time that you end up dividing by the cos. Okay, so 16.67. So 16.7. And notice we were expecting the x to be longer than this side, obviously. So if we made a mistake and you got an answer less than 12, you know you've made a mistake because the longest side obviously has to be bigger than the other sides. Okay, let's do one more like that. So basically in this one, here's my angle. This is the opposite. This is the adjacent. So we know it's a tan question. So again, I'm going to need to swap these two over, just rearrange the equation basically. So we're doing it on the calculator. So 14.4. Okay, now let's try questions where we have to actually find the angle. So it's very similar. So we label the sides first. So this is the opposite and this is the adjacent. And we realize that we need to use tan in that case. Okay, so tan is opposite over adjacent, but this time we don't know the angle, so we're going to have to leave this as theta. And this time opposite is 5 and adjacent is 4, so it's 5 over 4. Now in this situation where you're looking for an angle, the calculator can do the reverse operation. So if you know what the tangent is, it can tell you what the angle is. So the notation for that is tan with a little -1. It's kind of doing the inverse or the opposite. So we have to do this calculation. So it's quite straightforward. You just press on this calculator, on your calculator, probably a second or an inverse or something. So second tan, you'll see the tan with the -1 symbol, and 5 divided by 4. So it's 51.3. Okay, again, this one, very similar. So here's my angle. So again, this is the opposite and this is the hypotenuse. So hopefully now we realize that that has to be sine. So sine of theta is going to be 4/6. And then again, we have to use the inverse sine, sine minus 1, 4/6. So 41.8.